Alright, today I'm going to be making linguini bacon carbonara. So these are the main ingredients I'll be using here. Got some dried pasta, eggs, about a half a pound of bacon, garlic, onion, red pepper, and Parmesan cheese. And between that and a little bit of salt and pepper and maybe some fresh herbs, those are all the ingredients we need to get started today. So we'll start by chopping this bacon up nice and fine. And then we're just going to put it right into a cold non-stick pan. And this will start cooking over medium-low heat. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, bacon is one of those things that, because it's mostly fat, it produces its own fat in the pan. You can go ahead and put it into the pan cold without worrying about it sticking or it releasing too much moisture or anything like you would worry about with other meats. So for our onion, I think we're actually just going to do some kind of thin slices. So I'm going to try to follow the grain rather than cut across the grain as though I was dicing. I'm going to follow the grain and kind of make long strips like this. And I'm just kind of aiming towards the center of the onion, just like that. And that gives me these nice little strips of onion that won't fall apart when we start cooking them because they've got the grain, the fibers kind of running through them. So they're more likely to hold together. Beautiful, just like that. And I think we'll do the other side as well. So same thing, we'll cut off our root ball and just slicing down towards the middle, making these nice little strips. Great, I'll put those in there. All right. Next up, our red pepper. So everyone's got their own theory on the best way to slice a pepper. My personal theory is just cut the sides off. Cut one side off like that, and then you can see right inside it into where kind of that fibrous, spongy bit is. And you just want to cut around that. You just want to cut past that so you don't get any of that, right? And if you do get a little bit stuck on there, you can trim it off with your knife. But really, you shouldn't have to worry about that. You can just kind of aim with your knife such that you're cutting all of that off in the course of cutting the pepper. There. And if you don't want to be wasteful, just go back, take that little bottom bit, and if you don't want to be wasteful, you just go back and eat these bits. That's usually what I do. The top is for me. Yummy. All right. Same as the onion, I kind of want long, thin strips. So I'm keeping the skin side down so it's easier to cut through. I'm just going to take the tip of my blade and run it over the counter, picking up those, and just kind of julienne the pepper just like that. Beautiful. Probably more than enough already, but maybe I can dip some of these or eat them. Yeah, I'm gonna eat this. Okay. Put those in there with my onion, and I'm ready for the next step. All right, next step is going to be to make our sauce. So I'm going to start with a couple of eggs. I'm just going to crack the egg open and just pour it into my hand, just like that. And I'm going to kind of let the egg white just run through the cracks in my fingers, just like that. And then you can see it's got that bit on there. I'm just going to gently pull that off. All I've got left is this yolk, and then I'm just going to pop that into my little bowl. And we'll do that to one more egg. I think that'll be enough. Fantastic. You can hear the bacon cooking in the background. There, another perfect little yolk. Let's get that a little bit there. There we go. There. Well, in she goes. And this, these two egg yolks here will become the base of our sauce. As for these whites, we're not going to waste these. We can save them and use them later to make meringue or an egg white omelet or any number of things. Chocolate mousse. So we'll save this and see if we can't come up with a way to use it later. Alright, to our egg yolks, I'm just going to add just a few ingredients, nothing too complicated here. We're going to add a nice, healthy pinch of salt, a good amount of cracked black pepper, there we go, and last but not least, our grated Parmesan cheese. And then we're just going to whisk this into a paste, basically. There you go, just like that. And this is the base of our sauce, this paste of Parmesan cheese and egg yolk. We'll add a little bit of fresh garlic to that as well. And then what we're actually going to do is we're going to thin this out with some of the starchy water that we cooked our pasta in, and then add it back in with the pasta to make our sauce later on. That's how we're going to do that. Okay, time for some garlic to add to our paste. I'm going to do, I think, 2 cloves of garlic today. My wife really likes garlic, so I want to make sure that I use a decent amount in here. Same thing, just cut off the base of the garlic, give it a little squish, and that skin, just grab it by the tip, it'll just peel right off. Excellent. And then I'm just going to go slice across one way and then go back and rock chop it. Okay. There. And then now just go back and sometimes people buy those, you know, those kind of specific garlic choppers, the ones that kind of rock back and forth, or garlic crushers. I find that it's always and still just fastest to use a knife. Because when you're finished, cleaning a knife is really simple. Whereas, I don't know if you've seen those garlic crushers, but they're not the easiest to clean. And for all the time you save not having to chop the garlic, you do end up, you know, cleaning little bits of the garlic out of the mesh of the string of the crusher. All right, so garlic goes in there. Beautiful. Excellent. All right, and then we're going to add a little bit of olive oil to this as well. There we are. Whisk this up. All right. Now, because we're using fresh garlic, and this sauce really just tosses with the pasta at the end, and there's enough heat to kind of thicken the egg, but not really enough heat to cook that garlic. So there is going to be a fairly pungent garlic flavor to this dish. If you were doing this at home, I don't necessarily recommend that you do 2 cloves of garlic. Maybe you would like to gently saute the garlic in some olive oil to begin with. You know, just on low heat, just kind of cook off some of that intensity. And then you could add that olive oil and garlic once it had cooled off into your mixture here. And that would make the garlic flavor just a little bit less intense for people who find the flavor of raw garlic too pungent. As for me though, that's kind of what I'm going for, so that should be good. Okay, so our chopped bacon is mostly cooked, and there's not too much fat in there. I think just the right amount. So I'm going to go ahead and add our onion to this. There we go. And we'll start sauteing this in with it, and we're going to turn the heat up just a little bit. There we go. Alright, onions are starting to sweat out just a little bit. Softening in color, starting to get a tiny bit translucent. And I've got this at about just over medium heat right now. I don't want to burn the bacon, and I don't want to overcook these onions either. I don't want them to get kind of soft and squishy. I want them to retain a little bit of their firmness. I just want to cook out the intensity and sweeten them up a little bit. Okay, and we can pop in our red pepper now as well. And we'll just keep cooking this for another 2 minutes. Give that red pepper a chance to cook a bit. Okay, so it's been about a minute and a half. Still a nice amount of crunch to the red peppers. They haven't gone overboard. Beautiful. And I think this is just about done. So, we're just going to take the same dish that we had it in to begin with. And bacon, onions, and red peppers back into our bowl. Hopefully without making too giant of a mess. This red pepper decided to go back in for a little extra cooking. Alright. Perfect. And now we can get the water on for our pasta. Okay, I got my water ready. So my 3 rules for boiling pasta. Number 1, make sure you've got a lot of water, way more than enough water for the pasta. That way it doesn't overcrowd and stick together. Number 2, when it comes to salting your pasta water, I don't think there's such a thing as too much. My theory is it should be as salty as the sea. So nice and salty, because that's where all the flavor on our pasta is going to come from. And then just hit it with a little bit of olive oil as well. And that's how I do that. Alright, water's boiling. I've got my pasta right here. It's probably enough, just enough for 2 people. And the way I'm going to add this in is just put it in like that, and then as those bottoms soften up, we'll just ease it into the water and stir it around. I don't want any of it to stick together into clumps, so you really want to keep moving it when it first goes into the pot, and then you're going to want to stir at least every, I'd say, 30 seconds for the duration of the cooking time. Alright, so we can let that come to a boil again and start cooking our pasta. And I'll check in right when this is getting close to finish. Okay, so we've got our water here. This just came off the boil for about 9 minutes. Water's still super hot, but and I added a little bit of fresh thyme to our egg yolk and Parmesan mixture. And before I drain this pasta, I'm going to take a little bit of that kind of oily, salty, starchy water, and I'm going to set that aside to finish making my sauce. and then I can dump the rest of this in order to get the pasta. Okay, I've got our hot steaming pasta in that bowl, and now I'm going to start just adding a little bit at a time of this starchy water to our egg yolk mixture. If I add it all too much right away, it's going to cook. It's going to cook the yolk, and you'll get little clumps of kind of cooked egg yolk, and that's not really what we want. We just want this kind of smooth, exactly like this. This kind of smooth, creamy sauce. Beautiful. And that's all we need. I don't even think we're going to need any more of this. I'm going to keep it just in case. But now, we're actually going to count on the heat, the retained heat from this steaming pasta, to cook our egg yolk mixture fully as we pour it in. We're going to kind of toss it around. Beautiful. And this will thicken up and coat all those noodles with this amazing, rich, thick sauce. Kind of a creamy sauce without the need for any cream or dairy. Just using those egg yolks. Beautiful. Fantastic. Maybe we'll get the last little bit out of here. I don't think that this will, yeah, this will be perfect. We'll add that in as well. Beautiful. Toss that up. And then now we're going to add in our bacon, our peppers, and our onions. And we're going to mix that all in together. And the shape that we cut those vegetables into, the peppers and the onions, will allow them to kind of just mix in with the pasta and blend throughout. Oh, that's got an absolutely beautiful texture. Awesome. Okay, and then now we're ready to plate it up. So I'm going to make the first plate for my wife, Rachel, and we'll try to make it a little bit of pretty. Don't have anything to garnish with though, so we'll take our pasta. We'll try to make a little, yeah. Don't want to overdo it on the plating. She doesn't want a super huge portion anyway. Yeah, just like that. Beautiful. And the rest of this I'll set aside, but I think this is a perfect portion for my wife. And here you have it. We've got our linguini bacon carbonara done my style. Thanks for watching.